Hey, what is up guys? So today, finally bringing you guys that Shaddoll deck profile that all of you guys have been asking me to upload, and it's the exact same one that I took 6th place over on DevPro with when I was trying to go for that first spot. But I will be continuing that series later on when the Cliffos come out, which is another archetype. I used to call them Quilloffs, but they are actually pronounced Cliffos. But anyways, before we get into that, because this is going to be a set after, this is going to be in the next set, so I figured we'll talk about them because this honestly to me is one of the best decks that is coming out into the game, the newest archetype I would say that is just going to completely dominate a lot of decks. And there's this card over here, Midrash, which I'm sure a lot of you guys already know about. This card is just, it's so strong in the game, basically shuts down any deck that likes to synchro at XYZ. It just says no, and you get so much free advantage in this deck. So if you're more like a control player that also likes the ability to make pretty much anything in the extra deck, with the exception of some rank 7s, basically you can synchro for whatever you want in the deck, and you can also bust out an Arcanite Magician, which helps out so much in a lot of circumstances. And there's also the ability to make, you know, your generic rank 4s, which are really good in the game. Now, I do want to mention there's one card that might not come out into the TCG, which is Elder God Nodin. Other than that, though, I'm not playing Heavy Storm, and I didn't play Pot of Avarice because I didn't think these cards would come back into the TCG, and they're kind of irrelevant. Well, Pot of Avarice very relevant, but Heavy Storm is kind of irrelevant anyways in the Shaddoll mirror match. Basically, you might hit like a breakthrough skill, or if you hit something else, it's usually chained to, or they can play a Shaddoll Roots and they get free advantage anyways. But for the most part, it's not too effective anyways in the mirror match. And that's basically what I'm going to be talking about a lot in this video, because basically this deck is going to be the deck that I think a lot of players will be picking up. And if you guys just want to go ahead and net deck, you don't want to hear the explanations, you guys can go ahead and check the link down below in the description box, get the Dropbox download, and then you're good to go. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll explain all the things as we go along and all the choices. Like I said, I did play in the OCG/TCG, so that means that there were other players playing things that weren't out yet. Technically, the Shaddolls aren't out yet. Technically, also the Masked Heroes aren't out yet, which is a very popular deck as well when you go into the OCG/TCG for the ranked. But let's go ahead and finally get started with the deck profile, and like I said, I'll go through the explanation. So first off, we're playing triple Cephalon, very similar to the Malaysia build. This build is, well, I mean, most Shaddoll builds basically have like the same like 20 cards anyways, but the Cephalon is just the best card. Whoever thought of putting Cephalon in this deck, man, my hat goes off to you, because seriously, Cephalon is so great in this deck, especially in the mirror match, because what happens a lot of times in the Shaddoll mirror match is basically you're going to try to make something, whether you make something like Nephilim or Midrash. Usually Nephilim is the card that sees more play when you do mirror match, but once Nephilim comes out, if you're able to affect Valor, their Nephilim, when you already have a Cephalon out, you basically win the game anyways. This deck generally does not OTK, but playing triple Cephalon allows you to potentially OTK a lot more often, especially with like Tragodia and stuff. There's a lot of reasons why I'm running Cephalon, but the main reason why you love Cephalon in this deck is because sometimes if your plays get disrupted, like a lot of players in the OTG, they run those triple torrential tributes, and sometimes you go for your play, it doesn't work out, you got like no options, and this deck will just get so much free advantage off of that ability to make it so you have nothing and they have like a face down Falcon. They're going to flip, they're going to get so much other effects that it's much better to actually just be able to keep yourself alive in the game. I know this card can technically be a dead draw, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But next up, I'm playing 2 Tragodia and 1 Gores. The reason why I'm playing these cards is because I went for the Curry Bandit build just to be faster than other Shaddol decks. Shaddolls is a very, very fast deck, but Curry Bandit makes it even faster. The problem that I ran into when I played the Curry Bandit build, and I didn't play any traps because I didn't want to mill my traps, unless it was breakthrough skill, then I'm totally cool with that. But for the most part, Curry Bandit just lets you make the deck faster. I mean, it's basically like a card trooper on steroids. It just makes the deck go so much faster. Plus, you get to add one of your really powerful spells, or I mean, mediocre traps. This card right here is only good when you open up with it within like the first 5 turns. Other than that, I hate this card, but you gotta play it because it makes the deck so much more consistent. But for the most part, Tragodia and Gores are here because of the Masked Heroes. You guys know in the OCG, they just love heroes. For I don't know what reason, Masked Heroes, E-Heroes, they love them. It doesn't matter what form it is, they love them. And a lot of times with this deck, I noticed if I went for like a first turn Curry Bandit, or sometimes other players played Mathematician, and I tried that build too, the problem is you would just get wrecked. They would go ahead and just swarm, well, they don't even really swarm the field. What it is they keep on changing the hero's mask, and they keep on attacking you. They're like, okay, mask change, activate this other mask change that can only be activated once per turn, but it doesn't matter because there's several different ones of them, and they're just going to be able to just OTK you, and you really didn't have anything to stop that. I didn't really like playing Maxi because you're just going to lose anyways if you don't play Trag or Gores, so I decided to go with the double Trag and 1 Gores. I know Gores is at 3 in the OCG, but I decided to make it, like I said, TCG oriented because that's kind of what my channel is about. Even though I do cover the OCG a little bit, I figure most of you guys are TCG players anyways, and I think 1 Gores is basically enough anyways. Because I think Trigodi is a fantastic card in the mirror match also, because Shaddoll Beast is actually level 5, which basically allows you to steal mid-rash, and that also allows you to throw a monster on board after they make a mid-rash, so it still allows you to make a play. Basically what you want to do in a Shaddoll mirror match is make it so Midrash or Nephilim can't hit the graveyard, so they can't basically summon them, because every time the Shaddol fusions go to the graveyard, they have the effect that you can target 1 Shaddol spell or trap card in your graveyard and you add it to your hand. So the thing that happens most of the time in mirror match, especially against players that really don't understand the mechanics of the deck too well, is basically one player makes anything out of the extra deck. Let's say whether it's a synchro or a fusion, it doesn't really matter. Basically what happens is Nephilim gets thrown out, it runs over it, then their turn comes around, they go ahead and they make a Nephilim, or they make something to get over Nephilim, and then they're just going to bring back another Nephilim the next turn. Now that usually happens until there's no more Nephilims, and if they do happen to play Pot of Avarice, that really sucks for you because they're going to put back all the Nephilims and they're just going to go ahead and resummon them. So the thing that you want to do is actually be able to absorb the monster with something like 101. You can't really make Big Eye too well in this deck. I mean, you could definitely try. I've seen some players try to run the Fire and Ice hands, and then there's someone trying to play Blaster. There's also a Fire Shaddoll, but I think it's kind of not as good, especially in the mirror match, because there's no fires for you to really utilize. I would say that can just go to the graveyard from your main deck anyways, and I don't really see, I mean, you could try maybe running it like with Fire Fist or something like this, but this deck just like wrecks the hat trick build basically. That's the deck I think that's most popular in the TCG at the moment. But like I said, Trigodi was just fantastic because making it so they can't add the Shaddol spell or trap, whether it's the Nephilim or the Midrash, basically secures you a lot of free advantage, which we'll get into just in a moment. Next up, BLS. This card's amazing in the deck because, like I said, it's going back to the same idea. If you make it so they can't add back that card, that really puts them in a bad situation, because a lot of times also, going back to Cephalon also, when you make plays against Shaddolls, they usually want you to have a monster from the extra deck face up so they can just go, okay, Shaddoll Fusion. Otherwise, they'll have to activate Shaddoll Fusion, getting rid of cards from their hand and or their side of the field, but they usually don't want to do that because they don't get as much free advantage by sending other cards like this. So there's the Eclipse Wyvern with the Dark Arm build. If you want to go ahead and play that deck, that build can also technically OTK, but sometimes when you play Curry Bandit, you can't control it, and there's just too many. I know you have BLS, and I know you can get back cards with Falcon, but sometimes it just gets out of control, like it's just too fast, and that's why I decided to go with like the Trags. But yeah, like I said, BLS, very good, gets rid of the cards so they can't re-add stuff back. Next up, I played 2 Beasts. He's basically free draw power, and I really like this card in combination with Falcon because you can you go Falcon into Beast. Sometimes they don't want to attack into it, and then you just next turn you flip it up anyways. It doesn't really matter. They're going to get their effect anyways. A lot of players are like, no, I don't want Shaddoll Beast to get its flip effect, and it's like, well, I'm just going to flip it next turn anyways. But I like this card with Birdman because then it's free extra draw power. Plus, Birdman is just fantastic when this card gets Fiendish Chain, and I just return it back to my hand. Okay, cool, special summon it, now have a free monster, and now you have Fiendish Chain that kind of got wasted. But I just love Birdman in general. He just opens up so many random plays that you normally wouldn't think of, and it's all because of Shaddoll Falcon allowing you to just bring out any Shaddoll. Oh, one thing that's also important, you can bring back the fusions with Falcon. Like, how ridiculous is that? They didn't think about that. I don't know if they just didn't see that or they wanted you to actually go for that. But yeah, you can actually get your fusions with Falcon, then Falcon, once the monster gets sent to the graveyard, it's like, oh cool, you get free Shaddoll Fusion, activate Shaddoll Fusion. Pot of Hours is very good in the deck. I actually decided to throw in an Emerald just to recycle these cards. If you really want to, you could probably get away with just playing one Midrash, but I really think 2 Midrash and 2 Nephilim is like the optimal number. If you want, you can go ahead and drop this card completely and just drop the instant fusion, but I like it because it has a rebuttal play because of the triple Torrential Tribute in the OCG. But next up, I'm playing 2 Dragon, 2 Lizard. I think it's pretty much standard to run 2 of everything except for the Hedgehog, because the Hedgehog allows you to add the Shaddoll spell or trap, which basically means add Shaddoll Fusion. I mean, that's basically what this card needs to say. Also, one thing that I really love about Cephalon is Dragon has the effect that he can target 1 card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. That happens a lot to Nephilim as well as well, it's more Nephilim in the mirror match, but basically that makes it so you can't add the Shaddoll spell or trap, but it makes it so you can't add the Shaddoll Fusion, then allows you to re-summon the card. So they can't really do that to Cephalon because Cephalon's just going to resummon itself, so it's not like it's going to matter. And I feel like Shaddoll Lizard, a lot of times, it just gets sent to the graveyard really fast because it has the effect that when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, especially if they're playing the Dark Arm build and they're trying to get their darks like as quickly as possible. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can send another Shaddoll, except for a copy of itself. So basically, this lets you dump and make your deck even faster, but it has another effect where you can target one monster on the field and destroy that target, which is not necessarily a bad effect, but it's just available. I mean, it would get rid of Cephalon, whereas this wouldn't. This card is just amazing. Dragon is crazy. It's 1900 attack, too. Next up, for the card, I really hate drawing this card, but Electromagnetic Turtle, basically it prevents you from dying sometimes. There's a lot of times where it saved me, but basically it's a Necrogrinder that ends the entire battle phase, and usually what you do is you activate Shaddoll Fusion, and as long as I have a monster from the extra deck, and you send the cards from your deck to the graveyard. So, you want to send this as quickly as possible. You do not want to draw this card, so that's pretty self-explanatory. You only play one because you can only use its effect once per duel, and I think one's enough anyways. Next up, Birdman. Man, this card is just so good. I love this card so much. Just like I said, Phoenix Chain hits this, or something hits your card, you're just able to bounce it back, and it lets you like synchro up. If you have Tragodia, you can change the levels. I was thinking about playing the, there's a Gen X card that lets you steal a monster that your opponent controls. Locomotion R Gen X is the card's name, but I mean, it's kind of conditional. I really didn't have too much room in the extra deck anyways, but yeah, next up, 3 Curry Band. This is what makes the deck so much faster than other Shaddolls, even though Shaddolls is generally a fast deck anyways. Basically, just being able to dump everything, just go for Cephalon is just really good, and yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It lets you add, like, every spell and trap in this deck is very good, with the exception of this. Like I said, if you don't draw this within the first like few turns, this card's completely useless because you've probably already dumped so many cards, and because I don't play Pot of Avarice because I wanted this to be a TCG oriented build. Yeah, this card's basically useless after like turn 5, hugely. I mean, sometimes it can be still useful, but for the most part, I don't really like it after turn 5. Next up, Neospatian Gramble, the best card in the mirror match. If I open up with this card, I usually feel like I have so much free advantage because basically, everyone that's playing this deck generally wants to play through almost every deck plays 3 breakthroughs. Because I love this card because it forces out like answers before I go for like my actual plays, and you don't really need your normal summon too much in this deck. I mean, generally you just set, and if you're really on that defensive side, then that's fine. But Neospatian Gramble, it just sends their stuff back to the extra deck, and they can't do anything about it. And like if they do, who cares? A Gramble. Like, it's not like it's a power card at all. It's just your normal summon. And I love this card because it goes back to your hand, and then like what are they gonna do from there? Because they've already sometimes some players, especially newer players that are jumping into Shaddolls because they see how good the deck is, they make Midrash way too early on in the game. They don't even like understand. They'll just make Midrash, I got game. And then what happens is they don't get their effects. Kind of like how you don't want to just activate the effect of Grapha and not pop anything. Like, you don't want to go first turn discard Grapha and not pop anything. Oh, I mean, there's certain circumstances where you want to be as fast as possible, and I can understand. But generally, the way I like to play is a little bit slower and able to get the free advantage, whether it's popping a card with Shaddoll Dragon or just doing other stuff, making sure I have targets for Falcon to actually bring out. So there's other reasons why playing slower can be better, technically, but Granmole is just, it's so good. I love this card. Play this card and you won't regret it, especially in Mirror Match. It's just a fantastic card. And next up, 3 Hedgehog. Basically, the flip effect is to add Shaddoll Fusion, and then it has another effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add one Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand, except for the same copy of itself. Generally, when you activate Shaddoll Fusion, it usually becomes Dragon's effect. Usually, it's Dragon, and then you go for Electromagnetic Turtle, and then like if you happen to not want to draw these, you can start sending these. Like maybe you have a really cloggy hand or something like that. But as long as you can play it your hand, don't send these to the graveyard. I would recommend you sending Effect Veiler in the mirror match. Sometimes Effect Veiler is okay if you can like stop this effect and you have a Cephalon on board, but for the most part, I just couldn't find out another card that I like. Plus, this card was a tuner, which kind of works kind of well with Crimson Blader, depending on the deck that you're playing. And I was like, oh, I'll just throw it in there. I'll see how it goes. And I like to Effect Veiler. I don't really feel like Maxi is too great in the mirror match because basically, once you get high rated in DevPro, most of the games you'll be playing will be against this. This deck eats hat tricks like nothing, so don't worry about hat tricks like at all. Because what are they gonna do to Midrash? Once Midrash comes out, like what do? Like you can't destroy it. So there goes like your moral attack, and there goes your what is it? Trap hole, trap tricks, nightmare. Like there's very few things that deck has as a quick answer to Midrash. Like they have to use way too many things to get rid of it. And once they finally get rid of it, whether they do it with like a 101 or they somehow negate its effect, then basically attack over it by getting out a bigger monster, you get to add back Shaddoll Fusion, and then you just activate it again. And they just lose too much advantage, and basically this card just wrecks the deck. And it wrecks a lot of different Synchros and XYZ decks as well. Next up, play Lure of Darkness. There's enough darks to go around. This card, Instant Fusion, gets you out this card over here, Elder God Nodin, which allows you to make this, and that lets you absorb things, which is very nice in Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially if you can, like I said, going back to the same idea, you don't want your opponent to be able to get the effect that they can add a Shaddoll, spell, or trap once it hits the graveyard, so you can break through skill, Instant Fusion, you're all good to go, and then just make 1/1 on absorb, and then have a good time. But if this card doesn't come out, then I wouldn't recommend playing Instant Fusion, because there's really no point. You just swap it out. Heck, you can run an MST or anything like that. Oh, someone mentioned that Skill Drain would wreck Shaddolls. Skill Drain doesn't really do anything. Their effects activate. It's like Skill Drain against Dark World. It's like, you stop like maybe like 1 or 2 things. I know you stop the fusions, but they're not going to care, because by the time they activate their fusion, they can just go ahead and send Dragon and pop the card anyways. So do not run Skill Drain against this deck. It's not very effective. Next up, 1 Soul Charge. Going back to Toronto Tribute's card at 3. Sometimes when your opponent goes ahead and they already have their board established, and you try to make something, and let's say they, I don't know, bottomless. I mean, bottomless against this deck, it doesn't really happen too often, but I mean, if they do, well, whatever, you still have this card. I like this card a lot. It's a pretty good card in general. It's pretty self-explanatory, I would say. I would try to play more, but the problem was when you play Curry Bandit at 3, and you go Curry Bandit, leave a blank board, sometimes you take, you know, some damage. You don't have these to drop. Yeah, you're going to take some damage, and then Soul Charge, not looking so good, and then you also have the Instant Fusion, which you got to pay 1,000 for. But next up we have, this is like reinforcement of whatever you want in Shaddolls, because this allows you to send Hedgehog, which allows you, well, basically you do whatever you want. This card is like literally like a utility card. It can be an MSD, it could be a searcher for anything, and it could also be a card that special summons and sets you up so you don't get OTK. Oh, you can send this to the graveyard too if you want. But this card just opens up a lot of options. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to play it. 1 Random Lance is totally just random. I like it though. 1 Super Poly, good for the mirror match. Also good because of Nodin. Sometimes your opponent will make like a Synchro and XYZ, and you're like, oh, you have a Synchro and an XYZ? Cool, let me make Nodin and bring back a card, and then go ahead and make like 1/1, steal the other card. It's just so much free advantage in the game. I just like 1. I think 1 is an optimal number. If you want, you can side deck more for the mirror match. It's a fantastic card in the mirror match, but for the main deck, I think 1 is enough for me. Next up, 2 Facing the Shadows. Like I said, you want to open up with this. If you don't open up with it or have it by turn 5, this is really not too good usually. And lastly, 3 Breakthrough Skill, because it helps out so much against the mirror match. Whether it's stopping this card's effect and just, you know, overwhelming them with like just a copy of this, and not throwing up an monster from the extract. Do not do that, guys. Do not throw up a monster from the extract. Whenever you're playing against the Shaddolls, don't make something from the extract. And that's the problem that most decks will have, is they'll try to go for one of like their fusion monsters by making something from the extract. They get over it, and the Shaddol player goes, okay, cool, now I get to go ahead and bring out Nephilim. Like, this card just comes out right after they're like, okay, I negated Midrash's effect, I Fiendish trained it, I finally got over it, and I made something like, oh, it doesn't really matter what they make. Whatever they made to get over this card, let's put it that way. Then like, you could make Utopia and run over this, and I'd just be like, okay, goes to the grave, I'm gonna go ahead and go for Nephilim, and obviously Utopia can negate the attack, but like, it's Utopia. I can go ahead and get rid of that with like, you know, half the stuff in my deck anyways, but this card's going to come out right after. That's why I love Cephalon so much. But as far as the extra goes, I like 2 Nephilim, I like 2 Midrash. There's just 1 here. This card's really good against a lot of decks. A lot of decks don't have an answer to Leo, so I was like, throw in Leo. This card allows you to OTK against other Shaddolls, because sometimes they have so many monsters face down, because they have flip effects and they have effects when they're destroyed by a card effect. So I'm like, this is cool. Mistworm, you don't get nothing. Crimson Blader is just there. A lot of chance that you're playing against something that, you know, needs, against Lightsworn. I've seen a lot of Lightsworn decks running around, so Crimson Blader, no JD. I like this card. It's pretty awesome. Next up, Moonlight Rose Dragon. This card is really OP. I don't know if it'll come out. If it doesn't come out in the TCG, then, well, you don't really need it too much anyways. But it's pretty awesome when it comes out. Black Rose Dragon, pretty good. I like this card. I mean, it's so easy to make. I mean, it's just, if you set Falcon, a lot of people don't attack into Falcon, and they don't realize I'm just going to flip it anyways and just get the effect anyways, and then set this, and then I don't care if you attack into it, because I've already gotten Beast, and maybe I'm going to go for more extensive plays, or I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to my hand and special summon Birdman, and then I'm going to reset this card face down. Maybe I'll go for a Synchro or something like that. But basically, Arcanite Magician requires a non-tuner spellcaster type, And oh, what do you know? What's funny is I thought these were going to be machines. They look like they're puppets. I think that's what they are. They're dolls, but they look like they have strings attached to them. I don't know what they'd be considered like that. I mean, it's a lizard, but they're all spellcasters, which is kind of weird. I think they're possessed puppets is what they actually are supposed to be, but nonetheless, Arcane Magician, pretty good card. Lets you pop 2 cards, and I love you can't get him bottomless because he gets summoned, then he has the counters. 2 1-on-1s because absorbing this card is good, is very good. Absorb their cards. This card's fantastic, and I really like this card in general. I think it's the most. I think it's the best. I was about to say broken. Well, it's kind of broken to be honest. I think this is the best card in the game right now that's like at 3 that most decks can just like bust out. This card's also pretty good. But the majority of the time, I make this over like most of the stuff. Daigusto Emerald is really important. Do not skip out on this. There's going to be so many times where you're like, I really just need to put something back into my deck so I can go ahead and activate Shaddoll Fusion. And that's where Daigusto Emerald comes and saves the day. As far as other cards that came out, I don't know if these were out at the time I was going for that first place. I ended up getting 6th and then I stopped playing as serious as possible. But this card, it's not bad. It's I guess I'll go over its effect real quick. So it must be Fusion Summon, and then its effect is when your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters, if you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, you can negate that summon if you destroy it, and then send 1 Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. So the Shaddolls would get its effect, and then also as an effect, if you basically get rid of it, it gets the Shaddoll Spell Trap. I just couldn't find a fire that I really liked that I could just like main deck that would like have an effect on the graveyard. If you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. There's also that Earth Shaddoll. I forgot I don't think it's actually out on DevPro yet, but I think it's like does it negate monster effects, or is it like negate a sound? I forgot exactly what it does. It's pretty good, but the problem is I mean, maybe saying Ground Ball, but you wouldn't want to do that. Like I said, guys, Ground Ball is super good in the deck because it goes back to the same idea in Mirror Match. The thing that you want to do to actually win is be able to not let them get that effect, and then from there, they don't really want to send cards from their like hand to the graveyard. They're just going to go 2-, and even if they do go for that, let's say you get rid of their card by like Grand Mole, what are they going to do? Make it again only to get Grand Mold again? And like, most of them play multiple Breakthrough Skill anyways, especially Mirror Match. I see most Shaddoll players playing Breakthrough Skill. Well, most decks in general play Breakthrough Skill. A lot of them when they Breakthrough Skill my Grand Mole, it's like, what are you going to do to it? Attack it? I'm just going to bounce it back again. If they're going to use the Breakthrough Skills effect twice, I understand. But that's using 2 cards. Well, it's technically a 1-for-1, but the thing is they're using it like technically twice when they could have saved it for something else, perhaps if they really needed to get its effect negated later on, like mid-rash or something like that. But anyways, that's been the deck profile for you guys, and I'm sorry it kind of was a little bit longer than I expected, but it's a lot of information for you guys, and I hope this helps you guys out if you're looking to get into competitive game and you want to know how the heck this deck is going to be played out. But like I said, the main concept of Shaddoll Mirror Match, which is going to be really relevant, or just playing against Shaddolls in general, just take their cards. Be able to make 1-on-1. I know some decks can't really make it, but that's where Trigoria is awesome. But being able to just make it so you don't get the effect that they can re-add the Shaddoll Spell Trap, which basically just, it re-adds Shaddoll Fusion to only be activated to bring out Nephilim next turn. That's really what it comes down to. Unless Midrash can run over whatever you already have out. But yeah, until the cloths come out, guys, this is going to be a really strong deck, and if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. But that's been the deck profile for you guys that you guys have been asking for. Finally bringing it to you guys. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Azneyes out.